Kansas announcing Jacque Vaughn as a new assistant coach on the Kansas basketball staff. It's a guy that we talked about quite a bit. So I don't want to spend too much time on it. We kind of already shared, I think, a lot of our thoughts on that. But just real quickly, the if you will, Kevin, the elevator pitch for what you think Jacque Vaughn being at Kansas means.
Yeah, well, first I want to ask a question. Were you alive when he played at KU?
No.
I did not think so.
I only know him as a Jayhawk through YouTube.
But for those of us who were, like, it was a really special time in that not only were those teams so dominant, like Jacques was the type of front man that every team in college basketball wished that they had. You know, he was an academic, all everything. You know, he was an All-America level player, the type of guy you wanted to be an ambassador for your program. He always wore a rubber band on his wrist, Nick, that he would snap whenever he made a mistake, and he would, you know, letting himself sort of know, I guess, that he didn't need to be making that mistake. But it was so fascinating being a teenager when he was playing, because you would go and play pickup ball, Nick, and I swear to you, like, of the 10 guys on the court, 5 would have rubber bands because of Jacque Vaughn. And so somebody that was one of the most popular Jayhawks, I feel like, certainly in my lifetime, even when you look at guys like Devontae and Frank and, you know, and Sharon and different guys like that, just tremendously popular, incredibly smart. The elevator pitch is, I think, one, you just landed a guy who is an NBA head coach and all the things that go along with that, the X's and O's and how sharp you have to be an NBA head coach, you know, with all of the things they run there. Immediate positive. I think he's somebody that relates really well to people, which is also part of the reason that he was an NBA head coach and part of the reason that he was an NBA player for as long as he was. And the other part is, he's a former Jayhawk, but a former Jayhawk who didn't play for Bill Self. And I know that sounds silly, and maybe it's not a concern or whatever else. Bill Self is a big personality. We all know this. Kind of a dominant guy. Jacque Vaughn is somebody that was never subservient, if you will, or never underneath Bill Self, either as a player or an assistant coach. And so because of that, I think that he's somebody that can look Bill Self in the eye and give his unbiased, unvarnished opinion on things, whereas potentially maybe some other candidates, if you were looking in the Kansas family, you know, might not have been able to do the same. And so just an absolutely great hire for so many different reasons. I know a lot of people are going to want to know, hey, is this head coach in waiting? I don't think it matters yet. I think the good news is you get to evaluate him, right? You get to have him right there on campus where you can say, hey, how does this guy recruit? How does he interact with players? What's the X's and O's like? You get to see sort of the entire picture there. And so that's a possibility, but I don't think you have to decide tomorrow, hey, this guy, the guy that's following Bill Self at Kansas. And I think that's another positive.
Yeah, honestly, I felt like that narrative was kind of crazy to begin with. Like, why would you hire a head coach in waiting when I listen, I recognize as much as anybody that Bill Self is in the twilight years of his coaching career at Kansas, maybe even in the next handful of years, right? But he has not publicly signaled any indication that he plans on retiring anytime soon. So I don't really get that angle, to be honest. So I agree with you on that. Like, I don't think it's part of it. I think it's, if you want to consider him as a viable candidate, now you just have him in your program already, and you get a chance. Like I said, if you're Travis Goff, you get a chance to see him in action, so to speak, and understand maybe if that's the way you want to go. So yeah, I don't really buy that angle at all. I think kind of the second part of what you outlined as well is the critical part. I think it's a win-win for Kansas because of what you mentioned about he's in the Jayhawk family. He's somebody that absolutely, like, if you were to take a poll of fans, of Jayhawk fans, this would be a 100% approval rating, right? I don't think there's any Jayhawk fan around the country that is like, we hired who? Like, what? Why did we do that? So, like, it's automatically a win from that standpoint because of that aspect of it, and because of the fact that he is a Jayhawk, and he's going to probably inspire a lot of a lot of fans and get them excited. But the other aspect that you talked about, which is he's not going to be a pushover. He's not going to be somebody that's just going to be a yes man. I don't think. I think he's going to be somebody that's going to bring in and actually have a fresh perspective and have maybe a different way of viewing how the game is played and whatnot, and is going to be able to provide some insight into that a little bit more. So because of that, I think it's a win-win. I think you absolutely hit a home run with the fan base. You absolutely hit a home run with, if you're trying to inspire maybe more donors or whatever it may be, you hit a home run from that standpoint. But also you've brought in a guy with a very impressive coaching resume. And, without knowing, without being in the weeds in terms of assistant coaches around the entire country of college basketball, I have to assume that Jacque Vaughn instantly becomes like one of the most experienced assistant coaches in the country. And probably one of the only assistant coaches, if not the only assistant coach in the country that was a former NBA head coach. So like you get both sides of it, which is why I think it's really a win-win for Kansas in that department.